Perfect.
So hi, Cris. Thank you so much for joining me today. We are so thrilled to have you with us, and we also wanted to welcome you to our team. You are our new partner there in Tanzania, and you'll be assisting us with immigration support. How are you doing today?
Perfectly fine. The pleasure is mine. We are equally excited to get an opportunity to work with you guys.
Oh, wonderful. So can you tell our listeners just a little bit about yourself, about the firm, your team, and what your specialty practice is?
Okay, perfect. My name is Crispin, as you've just said, Crispin Mwebesa. I'm a senior legal counsel based in Tanzania, and my areas of practice ranges from immigration and relocation, intellectual property, M&As, that is competition and antitrust, and project finance. The firm is a bit young, but between the partners, we have an experience of over 30 years. And in terms of our vision, we are trying to build an African international law firm by Africans within Africa. And at the moment, we have offices in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, where we have a team of about, we have 2 partners and 6 associates. We also have an office in Rwanda, Kigali, that is headed by a partner that I'm sure perhaps you'll have, you'll talk with her. We also have an office in Zanzibar, which is 20 by flight, 20 minutes away from Dar es Salaam. Our areas of specialties, we are a full service law firm, but we have various departments within the firm. And as I've said, I am heading the immigration department, intellectual property department, and competition and antitrust. And that is based mainly on the vast previous experience around those areas of laws. But we also have departments that is doing corporate and commercial litigation, and tax, which is being headed by my partner, who is also overseeing the market in Zanzibar. As for Rwanda, we are specializing in immigration and relocation, transaction advisory, and intellectual property only. And of those 3 areas, immigration and relocation is our big practice.
Yeah.
So in brief, that is AfriLex's Associates.
That's wonderful. So in pertaining to kind of the topic we want to hit today is obviously immigration based. So can you give us a brief insight into the current policies and procedures that are in place as a response to COVID? This is definitely a new kind of landscape for immigration in particular, the challenges that we are undergoing currently. So can you tell me a little bit about what's in place right now in Tanzania and that jurisdiction in particular?
Perfect. COVID, just like elsewhere in the world, has significantly affected Tanzania. But the Tanzanian government, from day one, when this pandemic started, this unfortunate pandemic started, took a different approach, in the sense that we never had a lockdown, we never had curfew, and 2 months ago we had a number of cases, which at the moment have continuing going down, and it's like there's nothing at the moment, and so it's business as usual, therefore. But despite the fact that there has never been curfew nor lockdown, the government at a certain point stopped the international flights, commercial flights coming into Tanzania, closed its borders.
Yes.
But effective the 18th of May, the same has been lifted. And so the commercial flights are coming into Tanzania.
Okay.
And,
that's great news, actually.
Yeah, and exactly. And yeah, we have opened our doors for tourism. And the only thing that you have to face when you get to Tanzania is the mandatory screening. So we do not even have the mandatory quarantine that other are practiced in other jurisdictions.
Yeah,
so it's business as usual in Tanzania.
14, yeah, it's usually about 14 days.
Exactly. So we do not have that anymore. So when you get here, it's just a normal screening, and life goes on as usual. Yeah. So that notwithstanding, because other parts of the world have been impacted, as much as we are getting tourists and other foreigners visiting Tanzania, but it is yet to get to the point it used to be prior to COVID. So in that way, we impacted. Yeah.
Yes. So you've been severely impacted. So, so you're saying that there has not been the lockdown, and there's still travel happening, and things are sort of business as usual. So does that mean that your immigration authorities are fully operational right now? You at your firm are fully operational? Is the current situation of processing all still the same?
Yeah, the process is still the same. When the situation was very bad, globally, about a month or 2 months ago, so there are certain steps that the government took. Okay, this included providing free extensions of visas to the people who were stuck within the country, or the people who had visas outside the country and trying to get into the country. So the government took that initiative to, assist those within and those outside trying to get into the country or getting out of the country. So as of now, all government offices are open and fully operational, including our immigration.
That's great news. It seems that, that's really great news. Tanzania is kind of ahead of the curve right now in terms of really resuming to its full operation. I mean, that's really fantastic news. And I'm sure your clients are also quite happy and on things to resume. So would the concessions that you had in place before, when things were, sort of really bad, are there still, there may still be expatriates that are stuck in Tanzania, maybe they can't return to their usual residence or to the usual country of citizenship. Are there any concessions for them right now, for them to remain in status in Tanzania until such time as they can and return home to their countries of origin?
Definitely, yes. The concessions are there, and they have not been uplifted. So if you're stuck, you can't get a way out to your country of citizenship. You can just go to the immigration, and the immigration keeps on sending, public notices, inviting any person with such a challenge, so that they can go home. But as I've said, at the moment, there shouldn't be quite a lot of such cases, because we have a couple of international airlines, commercial airlines, coming and getting out of Tanzania. Yeah. Okay. So the concessions are there, but there's huge relief again because of the international commercial airlines coming in and getting out.
Yes. And within those concessions, have your immigration authorities and processing and the governmental entities that adjudicate the cases, have they become lenient in any way? I mean, in terms of requirements, considering things are kind of awry and trying to get back to normal with requirements for particular visas and so on, have they been a bit lenient on that platform at all?
Yeah, massive lenience, and to the extent that even those who have who had resident permit expired, they were were granted with automatic renewals for 6 months.
Oh, that's
and this is, you're
fantastic.
talking
Okay.
about 6 months from, exactly. So there's been quite a lot of lenience on the part of the government to support people during this difficult time. Yeah.
Well,
And in our experience, as immigration lawyers, we have dealt with a couple of people who had similar challenges around this time.
yes.
And yeah, so our experience of working with the immigration department is that they have been quite lenient and quite helpful.
Oh, that's great. It's great to have governments that are understanding of the situation that we're currently in and can accommodate accordingly. Do you think, are there any current industries that are particularly favorable or very popular in general in the immigration landscape in Tanzania? There are particular industries that you work quite a bit with, and are any of them favorable in terms of attaining the relevant visas?
Okay, generally the policy in Tanzania is that for those who are looking to get work permits, then they have to prove that such a resource cannot be obtained in Tanzania. Okay, so as such, those with highly specialized skills are really getting huge support, and it tends to be very smooth when they launch their applications. There are other sectors that really sort of favored, to use that word, when engaging the immigration department of this country, will include the mining, oil and gas sector,
Yes, yes.
even the hotel and tourism sector. We have quite a lot of foreigners working in that space.
Yes, that is very true. You do have quite a huge sort of resort and lots of attractions. From my understanding, that Tanzania has really a lot to offer, sort of the vacational sort of lifestyle side, which is great. It's so nice to see that the tourism is up and running. A lot of other jurisdictions are really struggling. I know here in South Africa we are as well.
Yep. So, I mean, what the government has done is actually commendable. It's commendable. And that notwithstanding, it has been done simultaneously with other efforts to ensure that this pandemic is being contained. So the social distancing is still encouraged. Various health centers dedicated for the diseases have been communicated to the public. So the entire process in terms of how new cases will be handled have been communicated, and that process is clearly known to everyone. So the moment you land into Tanzania, that process is quite clear.
I see. So you did mention that there's just a regular clearance, but there's no quarantine clearance. Is there an additional medical clearance that you have to undergo, particularly maybe if you come from a high-risk country, or maybe even a medium-risk country where the infection rate is really high? Does Tanzania have any medical screening that's in place for countries like those?
Definitely. The moment you get here, so you go through, okay? And this is for every person coming into the country. The only thing that is not there is the mandatory quarantine. So if it happens that, you get tested positive, what they will do is, you'll be subjected to treatment and given the support. But there's no mandatory quarantine like in other countries. Whether you're positive or negative, you have to be subjected to the quarantine.
I see. Okay. So in terms of the volume that you're now seeing, but just let me backtrack for 1 second. Are there any backlogs in terms of application processes that were maybe in delay during the time when things were really not at its highest processing rate? Or is everything kind of smooth running in terms of timelines for application? Everything is processing in the same way, or is there any backlogs still?
No, there isn't backlog. If your documents are in order, things will tend to go smoothly.
Okay.
And from our experience of working with different clients, we have not experienced such a challenge.
Yeah.
So the only thing that you need to do is to make sure that you have your documents in order, and you send your application timely. And you should remember that everything now is being done online. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, everything is being done online. So once you have lodged your application, things tend to move quite smoothly. And actually, yeah, the immigration department discourages people going there physically. So you just make your application on time, and everything goes smoothly. So there's no backlog, to be honest.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, that seems to be the trend now, right? Sort of on a global immigration scale, is that a lot of jurisdictions are now having to move to this online sort of platform of submission for their applications and so on. What about any biometric qualifications or requirements for applicants at this time, or are there alternatives, or do they still have to be in person to be able to conduct those processes?
Yeah, the biometric requirements are still there. So the process is, once you have lodged your application and all the documentation as required, you'll be notified in terms of when you can sort of getting an appointment for biometric, requirements.
Yeah.
So that is the process that's being done. It's quite smooth and quite friendly, to be honest.
Yes. Yes, okay. So, but you still obviously, even though things are now on this online platform, you do, of course, assist your clientele with accumulating the correct documents. Do you actually submit it on their behalf, or do you just do all the documentation and just administer for them? They can do that in their own capacity.
Okay, so as I've told you, we a law firm. So in terms of how we do our, we handle our immigration assignments, we have the advisory arm of it, okay? So advising our clients in terms of the legal requirements, in terms of the documents required, and go further to review the documents that have been submitted, and advise on the changes that need to be made so as to meet the threshold set by the law. So that is number one. Number two, the client has an option either to, lodge the application themselves, or we can, and then we will continue with a follow-up and making sure that the permit or the visa is obtained in.
Right. Right. No, that makes total sense. So so in terms of your recommendations to companies now, a lot of companies are looking to restructure how they're going to be moving their people around, right? So secondments are going to be a little different. Some of them might actually be a lot longer, or some might oppose to having these really kind of in and out short-term assignments, and some are thinking about doing even remote assignments and all of that. So I'm sure as a firm, you're going to have to adapt accordingly. But what would you recommend to companies now who want to plan for the future? Regarding their staff, their movement, particularly with how things are working in Tanzania, what would you advise them about moving forward? Specifically about flexibility. A lot of companies are really planning their budget, they're planning projects and assignments. As a whole, what would you, as their immigration expert, advise them on how to move forward in this climate that we're in now?
Yeah, first of all, they need to use people like, Relocation Africa and AfriLex's associates to get to understand the legal landscaping and the opportunities that they can, take advantage of given the prevailing circumstance. Secondly, what they can do is actually to make use of the business visas, okay?
Okay.
Make use of the short assignment, as a strategy,
Yes.
and continue to observe the situation, so that should there be further opportunities, they can always change their strategy. But again, we should also in Tanzania we also have for certain countries, not all the countries, for certain countries, we have what we call visas on arrival. Okay.
Yes.
So with the visa on arrival, you can get into a country, and be able to play around that within the limited time of your visa.
Yes.
Do whatever you gotta do, and then leave the country.
How long is that valid for?
Yeah, it varies. Max. The practice has been max of so between 3 months to 6 months.
3 to 6 months. Can you work under a visa on arrival?
Not really, but if you're coming for a business meeting,
Okay.
so this is why I'm saying, if you're coming for a business meeting that won't take you so long, you can take advantage of that.
I see.
But if you're coming to work and you're going to be paid, then the entire setup changes.
Right, right. And just, you referenced the business visa. I'm curious to know, business visas sometimes mean different things in jurisdictions. So some of them would have the same motivation and purpose. For example, like you said, the visa on arrival, you're coming for a meeting, you're coming probably for a conference of some sort or something so short term, but you're really not being paid from a local entity or anything like that. But what about the business visa? Is that sort of the same realm of attending a meeting or conference, or is it a little bit more expansive? Are you able to maybe work short term on a business visa in Tanzania?
Yeah, for as long as you're not being paid by a local entity, okay, then you can come through the business visa. Or the other thing that you can come through the business visa and make sure that you're not an employee of the Tanzanian entity that you're going to be based with, but you can have a consultancy agreement. Okay,
Oh, okay.
so a short-term consultancy agreement. That is another route that one can use, as a strategy.
Yes, yes. How long is a business visa typically valid for, Cris?
But again, it's the business visa is max of 1 year, the maximum of 1 year.
Okay.
But you should remember that the immigration authority will assess your application and make a decision. But usually it has been the max of 1 year.
Max of 1 year. Okay. I'm curious as to differentiation of nationalities. Are there any nationalities that are more favored in Tanzania in the immigration realm in Tanzania? Sometimes, certain countries have free visa entry or don't have to have the same types of requirements, or is everyone pretty much treated the same way in Tanzania?
Yeah. So there are certain countries that sort of being looked at high-risk countries, just like it is the case in all other countries. Now, if you're coming from such countries, it will tend to be a bit difficult to process your visa, and the level of scrutiny is quite high.
Yes.
But the list is about 15 countries only.
Okay.
As for other countries which are not in that list, which are not in that list, the process tends to be very smooth. But again, the process tends to be there isn't double standard,
Yeah.
so to say. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's good to hear, of course. So as we wrap up, Cris, is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners in the parameters of what we've talked about today?
Yeah, the number one, as I've already said, the borders in Tanzania, they're open, and the immigration department is fully operational, and ourselves together with Relocation Africa, people that we are really proud to partner with and to work with. We'll be more than happy to provide them support should they want to come for different reasons, to be it business or leisure, to Tanzania. That is number one. Number two, for multinational companies, perhaps this is the time to revisit their strategy and rethink in terms of how they relocate their human resources, a resource that's extremely very important. And we should there be a need again, we should be able to provide them with the support in terms of how their strategy should be, and in terms of how they can take advantage of various opportunities, area of immigration landscape that they can take advantage of. And lastly, as I've said, we are also present in Rwanda, and where we are also, again, very proud to be working with Relocation Africa. But again, Zanzibar, which is, part of Tanzania in terms of immigration. So should you be thinking of those destinations, be it business or leisure, we should be able to assist you professionally with speed. Just as it is with Relocation Africa, it is also the case with us that we execute with excellence. We surround ourselves with integrity. And when we say we execute with excellence, it is from an advisory point of view, but again, we execute with the speed that is needed for businesses in a very competitive environment.
That's great, Cris. This has been incredibly insightful. I know I'm going to really enjoy listening to this, and also to be gaining the current situation in terms of where we are right now in the world. And it seems that Tanzania is really ahead of the game in so many ways. So I'm so thrilled that you came on with me today, and I really look forward to working with you and your team. Listeners will stay tuned, because I'll be speaking to your colleague Doreen, and we'll be exploring the immigration landscape in Rwanda, and I'm very much looking forward to that as well. So thank you so much again. I really do appreciate
it. Thank you very much, Lynn, for having me. Thank you very much.
All right.